Oh, such a great track.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack in that one.
There really is. Yes. I'm almost feeling like I need to go back and listen to that almost instantly, like play it a couple of times back to back.
For sure. And frankly, just put that whole album on and put your headphones on and lie down on the living room floor and just sort of trip out on it for a bit.
Yeah. It's great. Really nice.
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, Darren, we're now on what I like to call sometimes the final stretch, really. I can't believe how quickly 2.5 hours have whizzed by already.
Funny how that happens.
It is, isn't it? And we've got so many more things to talk about. So no more noodling around about the Beatles. No, just kidding, because all of the conversations are important.
Yes.
But let's find out a bit more about you. So the samples happen, and then you're like, I want to go back. I'm not actually doing maybe as much music as I want to be doing.
Yeah, and that's where I really learned that getting involved in lighting wasn't a curse for my music career.
Yes.
Not at all. Because I wound up just within the samples community. I ended up playing in two of the individual members' solo groups, playing bass for them, and then doing some production as well for a third member, and then being involved in 2 albums with a couple of those guys as well, where I was either a producer or an instrumentalist. And those were really amazing experiences. I mean, just a lot of growth, but also just a lot of good times and a lot of great music. And those were things that, as I was making that choice, because at the same time I had been offered right when I thought, okay, I got to quit this. And I went back to work at a bike shop. And I was offered the opportunity to be the lighting person for a very well-known artist. And I said no. And I really felt like this is the universe testing me, and I'm not going to give in to what I know or is my true self. And even though some people in the production world, and in particular, the production manager at the Fox, after he found out, sort of pulled me aside and said, "Did you say no to that?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Huh." And walked away. And I was like, I think I'm the only person that knows this is the right choice. So I'm just not going to talk about it. And I'm going to dig into this. But being a bass player in Boulder at that time was pretty easy to get a gig. Let's just say that. And, and the band that I ended up getting into, I can't even say that there was a moment when we, chose to start. We just sort of started. It was all roadies, and it was either guys from the Samples crew, the Big Head Todd crew, or the Leftover Salmon crew.
Yeah.
And we ended up playing a lot. And that led to, sort of like we were talking about with, there being more venues and more musicians being able to interact. At that point, especially since there were like 6 bass players in Boulder at the time, I was getting asked to play in a band almost every time I played a gig. So I sort of got to pick and choose, but mostly I just stuck with a couple. And that was like the next 25 years.
Really?
So I don't mind those choices.
Yes.
Also, at the same time, I'd known since I was a little kid that I wanted to be involved in recording. And I had... I had my day job, which at that point was as a rare coin dealer, which we could spend a whole entire other episode talking about how I got there. But, but ultimately the long story short was that, it was a job that really fit my musician lifestyle. I'd roll in around the crack of noon every day, and, I could take Fridays off whenever I wanted. And as long as it was a fully commissioned job. So as long as I made money, I could sort of call my own shots.
Yeah.
So if I needed to leave on a tour, I would. And it also made me enough money that I was able to buy a house, and I started building a recording studio in my basement. And as my musical journey changed, I remember I was on the road for the coin company, and my phone rang, and it was someone I didn't know, and they were like a friend of a friend that said, "Hey, we're starting a reggae band. Do you want to play guitar in it?" And I said, "Yes, I do." So I knew who the musicians were, and I knew, sort of their pedigree as far as the other bands that they had been in. And I was like, yeah, this will be great. You talk about, like, we joked in the band that, you talk about 10,000 hours to mastery. And it was like everyone in the band had like 20 or 30,000 hours. So it was like, yeah, I'll definitely be in a group with these people. Well, so what was interesting about that was this is all right around the same time that smartphones started to become a thing. And I don't know if you know the app Words with Friends. It's like a Scrabble game that you can play.
No, I don't think.
Okay, but you sort of get the concept, though.
Yeah,
I mean, you're basically playing.
Yeah,
you're playing with a friend or maybe someone you don't know. And so I was playing that game thinking this was pretty fun, and it was connected with my Facebook account. And being a musician, I would just indiscriminately friend people because I would want them to come to shows.
Yes.
So I noticed that, they would rank the players, and I was just always challenging the next person above me, and whether I knew them or not. Ended up playing this one woman who was really, a great competitor in the game. And so we played for like a bunch of times. And then finally I started to chat with her on the little chat function that was in there. And she said that she was a pirate radio DJ. And I was like, oh, well, I'm in a band. Would you like to interview my band? And she said, sure. So the singer and I went to the pirate radio station, which was in the basement of a house that was literally around the corner from my house. And somewhere in the middle of that interview, I made some smart ass comment about how, I could do this, meaning like do my own show. And the producer of the station said, oh, we can arrange that. And so the singer and I she showed up about half the time. I was there all the time, had a Saturday morning variety show. On like live on air every Saturday morning, which was super fun. Well, unbeknownst to me, what that led to was people recognizing me as being someone that would talk on the microphone.
Yes.
And I already had, a version of my recording studio operating in my basement at the time. And people started saying, oh, well, you could do voiceovers on this website and on that website. And I was like, really? I mean, I'd always thought of voiceover as being a dream job, but never once even considered the path to get there. And so I was like, all right. And so I went on these websites, I made an account, I put my stuff up there, and immediately started getting work.
Really?
And the very first thing I did was I got paid $5 by a Canadian metal band to say, prepare the syringe. I know. Okay. I thought if they're going to pay me to do this is exactly the job I want.
Lovely.
Yeah. And of course, most of it's been not quite as colorful as that.
Yeah.
But that was in the middle of 2013 that I did that. That was the first time I got paid to do voiceover. And somewhere in the middle of 2015, I started doing it full time.
Right.
And I've been doing that since. And then, of course, using the proceeds from that to build up my recording studio. And to the point now where I actually just finished my first solo album recorded in that space.
Oh, great.
And as well as producing videos like in my living room, even though it doesn't look like my living room. That's it's just sort of amazing what the technology allows you to do these days if you have a few of the right toys. But so that was the beginning of my voiceover journey and sort of opening the door to what is ultimately and admittedly a hard job. It's absolutely the coolest job for me. Where every day is just something different, and I can be everything from like a engineering e-learning instructor to super wacky cartoon characters.
Yes. I did check a couple of your voiceovers that you have on your website, and I love them. It's like,
and
really
that's led to like some really phenomenal moments where people. This is something in my artistic career, be it music or I used to do like fine art paintings or voiceovers, is when your work connects with someone that encounters it and it really means something to them and they really like feel it as, as I was saying before about the music, the sort of you feel like it's, sort of speaking to you from inside of you, and you like really connect with the music and you see someone connect with your work that way. It doesn't matter whether you get paid for it or not. That is the coolest thing that you can do.
Yes.
And so each day I get chances to do that. And I've seen it happen around the world. It's been truly amazing and it's still going.
And can I ask you, because the world of voiceover is not familiar to me. I want to almost say alien, but anyway, it's certainly not familiar in the way that the world of touring or music and so on is familiar to me. So does it happen by word of mouth? Do people... How do you get
it's actually it's a lot like
client base?
It's a lot like being an up and coming band and trying to book yourself. Part of it is you have to, one of the true ironies of the performing arts is you have to show people what you've done, but you have to get opportunities to do stuff.
Yes.
So it's hard to do those things. But I had all the toys at home to be able to make my own demos. And granted, those first ones were pretty misguided, and I ended up getting coaching to iron out those wrinkles. But I just jumped in and thought, oh, I can do this. And so thanks to me and the Dunning-Kruger effect, I just sort of went for it.
Yes.
Not knowing what I didn't know. And finding out that the voiceover community is just the coolest. I mean, yes, we're all competing with each other, but we're not competitive with each other. Everyone
That's
is
nice. That's wonderful.
Because, you really can't be competitive. Because ultimately what it comes down to is that everyone has a unique vocal imprint. And yes, you may have better acting chops than someone else, or you might have the right acting chops for this particular job, and someone else might have the right ones for that job. What it comes down to, though, is this arbitrary choice that someone makes that really isn't about if you're better than someone else, because no one knows what better is.
Yes.
So as a result, everyone helps each other. And everyone's encouraging, and everyone refers each other, and everyone trains with each other. And it's just so nice to be in a group like that when it's already hard enough to try to make a living based on your artistic talent. And then it's insult to injury to have to be fighting with the other people that are doing the same thing when you're never really competing with them.
Yes.
And even in the music world, it's the same thing. Everybody's sound is different.
Yes, of course it is. And people do get competitive there. No, absolutely.
It's true. And on-camera actors or on-stage actors get competitive with each other too. And
our whole of our kind of society is really geared towards that. Even though it's the arts and we like to think it's, gentler water. Everything is about, it is, isn't it? It's about the top 10 and did you fill that venue and if you look at it that way, of course, it's about so much more than that.
Indeed, but whether
there is a thing, where people measure things. I mean, there's a right and wrong to it, and some, yes, of course, there is a management.
Something that I've seen, and I'm curious if you've seen it too, where the people that truly make it are the ones that really aren't like that. It seems like it's the also-rans. It's the second and third place people that are ones that are like kind of fighting and have sort of a bad attitude. And the ones that are making it are the ones that are open to collaboration and to teaching and don't feel threatened by the next new group.
Yes, it's often about being threatened. And I saw a program here once and it made me crazy. I'm just going to try and do this very quickly because I want to fit in a bit more music before we finish and so on. But there was a real swing for young Black British musicians in the early 90s, very late 80s and early 90s. And it was fantastic. It was like breathing life into the jazz world, which can be very snobby and stupid and kind of, all the things we don't particularly like. And this little documentary was supposed to be about that, but they had all these guys. I don't even know if you ever had really skiffle in the States, but it's a kind of form of music. It's a bit it's actually old white men doing jazz, really. Right. British too. And there were all these guys who'd had their moment in the sun. Really had, but they were all kind of resentful of what had happened with these young Turks who really could play and weren't big, were just jostling like younger people do. And it was a very exciting time for jazz. It was exactly one of those things where jazz became alive again here, which is good because we go through phases, and it suddenly became really cool again. And suddenly young people were going to, because there were young guys there on the scene. But I was just like, oh, dear me, you know what? If the best you can do is moan that somebody's taking your job, then you don't deserve to be in this.
Sounds like you need to step up your game and practice a little bit more, or try to.
These were guys who'd been around forever, and they were just it's just a grumpy old men thing, really,
resting on their laurels and surprised that the new kids want to do something different.
And also, you're in a documentary. Is that how you want to be remembered? But there you go.
Right. Well, anyway, to finish up answering your question, there's two aspects to getting work. One is creating good recordings and being able to advertise yourself. The other is just the hustle of kind of effectively cold calling, where you just reach out to potential buyers and share your stuff and create relationships, just like you would in a band and going to all the little clubs at first. There's ones that you'll connect with and ones that you won't, and you try to get back to the ones you connect with. And the more of those you have, the more likely you're going to become successful.
Yes.
And it takes years to get there, and it's an everyday event. So whether you're doing the writing of the songs or the recording of them or all the emails, it's all part of the game. And it's the same with voiceover. I do a bunch of auditions, whether it be through agents or through online casting sites. And then I also get on LinkedIn and reach out to people that don't post auditions, which is really most of like the e-learning world.
Yes.
And that's actually where there's just an absolute ton of work for voice actors, is stuff that you basically never hear unless you happen to be in that right university or that right corporation. And then you hear it. But that's where, it's just sort of making these person-to-person connections, and then of course, showing up and doing the job right and being reliable and being a good business person as well as a good performer is where this stuff comes together. Yeah. And then occasionally you have the big hit moment, the breakthrough moment, where you get the job as the hit video game character or cartoon character, or you do that right audiobook or something like that. Or, be like Liev Schreiber and show up one day and do a narration audition, and all of a sudden now you're doing everyone's documentary. So those magic moments happen too, because you're still an actor, so you're still living an actor's life, but where you can go to the store without getting recognized. Yeah.
Shall we listen to? So we're not like really bound to finish on the dot, but it's good. It's not like a strict curfew, is what I'm saying. But at the same time, I feel, the audience have to go home. No, that would be a gig. I feel like, we all kind of get to that point around 3 hours when it's about the right moment, but we're not there yet. So can we play now, just have a musical interlude before we come back again? One of your pieces?
Sure, let's. I think we should play "I Am the King" because it's Jill's favorite song on my new album.
Is it? Oh, well, then we definitely should.
She actually kind of made a point of mentioning that, and I think it was because she wanted it to be on this show. So I think we should indulge her.
Well, we'll come back to Jill right after this.
Okay.
So here you go, Jill. This one's for you. She's listening there in her backyard. I know she is. I am the king.
All right.
Aaron Roebuck.
Oh, I'm the king of everything. Yeah, I am the king of everything. You say you like me for my money and my cars, and for my constellation made of movie stars. Well, just clap your hands and they'll bring you tea. Even if it's 2:45, I'm the king and it all belongs to me. Oh, I've got to have you. I need to love you. I want you with me. Oh, I'm the king of everything. Yeah, I'm the king of everything. You say you like me for my mansion and my stuff, and my enormous aquatic gardens make you laugh. Well, jump right in and live the dream, swimming through my exotic bloodstream. I'm the king of all that I can see. Oh, I've got to have you. I need to love you. I want you with me. Everything. Yeah, I'm the king of everything. You say you like me for my Zeppelin and my yachts, and my rockets were all obtained by astronauts. Well, take a breath and hold it in. Feel the pulse of imperial sin. I'm the king and the world is mine to sit in. Oh, I've got to have you. I need to love you. I want you with me.
Yeah.
So there's that.
That's great.
that was inspired by MTV's The Real World.
Yes.
Actually, there was an episode on that. I was cleaning the house, and so I was already in kind of a salty mood. And housemate had The Real World on, and this young lady on the show was asking these two young guys to give her their best pickup lines. Mm-hmm. And these guys were phenomenally uninspired, which sort of added to my frustration because I'm also at the same time like cleaning a toilet. And I thought I'd tell her I was the king of everything. And I thought, well, that's a good line. And I ran right down to the studio and I basically wrote the whole first two verses, like from first word to last word, just in like one go, and realized it was like, oh, this is me, sort of my cynical response to people using pickup lines, being imaginative to try to get with someone. But that with a good ska groove behind it, and ends up making a decent tune.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. I love it. I since we mentioned Jill, I think it's time. Well, it is time anyway. There's a moment I like to pause around now and do some thank yous. And I'm just going to run through them.
Okay.
My first thank you is always to Carol Goss, who is a person who first had me on her show. And I wasn't maybe quite as bold as you, Darren, but I loved your story about the radio thing because it had an echo for me of what happened,
nice.
Which was I was on Carol's show a couple of times, and then Carol wanted to take a little break, which I think she's doing again now. And I had seen this, and I kind of put myself forward and said, I'd like to do this. And they were like, yeah, okay. And so I subbed for about 3 or 4 Carol shows, I think. And then Dave B., a wonderful producer, said, well, I can give you a slot if you like. It would be on a weekend. I'm like, well, let's do Sundays because I hope to have a lot of musicians on the show, and they probably won't want to do Saturday nights. So,
right.
Which is nighttime, of course, here in the UK. So it's worked out pretty good so far. And you were about 1.5 years doing that, were you?
Yeah.
As a radio host. Yeah. So I'm coming up to that sort of mark now and loving it, actually. It's just so great. But also the person that actually put us together is my penultimate thank you. And that is our amazing friend, Jill, who really is, I say this all the time, but it's absolutely true, Darren. This really should be called the Jill and Tash show because Jill's there beavering behind the scenes and such a great support. I'm sure you know this because you know her, but she's the most supportive person you could ever kind of wish for, really.
And she gets things done.
Oh, she really does. She really, really does. And you know she will. So if you're kind of something's gone funny on air or something, she'll rustle up whatever you need. Can you just quickly send me this? And she'll do it. And it's very odd when I occasionally, if she has to do something like go to a wedding, I don't know why she has to go to a wedding on a no, I'm kidding. But, sometimes important family things happen and I don't have her around, and I kind of feel bereft, really. I'm like, okay, I'll just pretend she's there instead because that's good. I'll pretend she's there and then I feel better.
And you don't have a panic attack.
Yeah, don't have a panic attack. I don't really do that anyway, but you never know, do you? I just slammed the table. That's very bad DJ work, really. Slamming the table because I'm thinking of Jill in a good way. And my final thanks for this little run of thanks this evening is to you, Darren, because it's been so great getting to know you a little bit, meeting you on air. And we haven't got through. Well, we will have got through half, which is good.
All right. Well, the final thank is to you for having me on your show. This has been an honor and a delight. I've really enjoyed being here with you today.
Oh, I've enjoyed it so much. And I think, Jill and I keep talking, we're starting to do this now, but rustling up some other ideas for the show. So when we ask people back, and occasionally people do come back, but maybe we can do slightly different format because this is based on my Desert Island Discs, which is a thing that runs from the BBC that's been going since the 1940s, and it's celebrities who say which 8 records, because back then it was records. It was probably 78s or something. They would take to a desert island, and then they get asked if it was only one, which one. And it's great, but it's not live, and it's not as long as this. So I particularly love the length and the liveness, because sometimes you can go off on a tangent, can't you? As indeed we have in good tangents,
Yes. We can talk about the Beatles for half an hour.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's short for me, honestly.
Yeah, it probably is for me too, actually. And also, I should warn you that down the line, when I next, because I've got a slew of guests coming up this month, but occasionally I have shows I have a week where there isn't a guest, and I do request shows, but usually around a theme. And I tend to ask previous guests. So we have had things like, here, what's your song for summer, or what's the song you have on repeat, or
cool,
the cover song that you prefer to the original, kind of thing. So I'll be sending you messages saying something like Darren, and I love them with voice messages too.
Good.
So,
well, I can't wait. I look forward to that. It's like I have Easter eggs coming to me in the future.
Yeah, exactly. But it has been lovely to meet you, as I said, and really, it's been such fun.
Yeah, so much fun to be here and chat about all of this.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of you.
And neat to see how much our lives have sort of intersected in different areas too.
I know.
That's pretty fun. Especially sitting here talking like 6,000 miles apart.
I know.
And we've both hung out in the same spots and met the same people.
And I know Boulder well enough. Yes, Boulder always was one of our favorite stops. And I had no idea that the Fox, of course, it should have won all those awards. It really should.
I had no idea. Just a spectacular place. And particularly at the beginning there was just such an intensely invigorating place.
Yes.
And so much positive energy, and everybody was just trying to make the place great. And it was just electric to be in the midst of that at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's still a great theater now, but it's not quite like it was when it started, and everyone was really pumped up about it.
Yes. Well, the thing is, things become kind of institutions in a way, don't they? So it's
sure.
You have it. It's kind of like any relationship. What you fell in love with in the beginning, we all grow older and everything else. You
have to learn to roll with life's punches.
Yes, indeed. I spent a bit of time when you were talking about Boulder, I think doing the lighting at the Fox, trying to remember, now, where's the dressing room there? And then I got it.
Yep, under the stage.
Yes, under the stage, of course. Anyway, so I think we should play out tonight with your with another one of your tracks.
All right, let's see. How about She Thinks Otherwise?
That sounds fantastic. Is there anything you want to tell us about this track before we...
This one was just sort of a song that practically wrote itself. Anyone that's gone through the recording process knows that the things you think are going to be the hits are probably going to be like bratty 2-year-olds that you just have to fight against the whole time.
Yes.
And some song you're not even thinking about will rise up and be one of the best songs on the album. And that's what this one was for me. It was just some little lick that I started with, and it was like, oh, that's kind of neat. I guess I'll leave it in. And then I went to write lyrics, and I was like, well, what do I write it about? And I was like, my whole theme for this album was love songs, and really varying takes of what a love song could be.
Yes.
And I was like, all right, maybe I'll write this one just about like a guy who's just sort of talking up his girl, and just sort of like almost like you're telling a friend about all of her great points, and I pulled out a rhyming dictionary and just started scribbling stuff down. And by the time I got to the end of it, I went back, I'm like, what is this song about? And I was like, I don't care. It's fun to say. And I learned some new words along the way, and mostly just had a fun time with the groove, and ended up being one that a lot of people really like. So, so we can see if more people really like it.
Great. We will. And I'm sure they will. But let's have a listen. Darren, thanks again for being my guest tonight. And
my absolute pleasure.
I look forward to the next time already.
Me too.
Here we go. This is She Thinks Otherwise from Darren's. Is this your about to be released album?
No, it's available kind of everywhere streaming music can be found, and it's available on my website as well. You can still actually get free downloads there from deeporbitstudio.com.
Okay, fantastic. If I will make sure we put that up on our various social medias in the next few days. Have a very good rest of your day, Darren, and thanks again. Here we go. She Thinks Otherwise.
wheels and I wanna go. Says what she feels, so I know, yo. She's a breeze when she starts to float, like making Arando. She's a wheels and I wanna go. Says what she feels, so I know, yo. She's a breeze when she starts to float, like making Arando. All of her emotions are masterpiece. The rhythm of the ocean, sweet release. Eternal affirmation of lasting peace. She possesses wonders and never cease. All of her emotions are masterpiece. The rhythm of the ocean, sweet release. Eternal affirmation of lasting peace. She possesses wonders and never cease. Too fine to be alive, too sweet to speak of other guys, too cool to waste your time on fools like me, but she thinks otherwise. Too fine to be alive, too sweet to speak of other guys, too cool to waste your time on fools like me, but she thinks otherwise. A trompe l'oeil that I can't believe. Benevolent deceptions of a sleep. An influence of love with no reprieve. More alive than creation can conceive. A trompe l'oeil that I can't believe. Benevolent deceptions of a sleep. An influence of love with no reprieve. More alive than creation